My resume. I really need to update my resume. Hi, and welcome to another lesson of Master Everyday English. In today's lesson, we're going to focus in on your resume. We're going to focus in on two important parts of the resume. Firstly, writing your resume, and secondly, when you're in your interview, when you're in your job interview, talking about your resume. I did a video recently that was all about preparing for a job interview. So if you didn't see that video yet, I suggest you go and have a look at it. I'll put the link at the top of the screen here for you. Go and have a look at that video. It's all about preparing for a job interview. And this video is really connected to that idea. What do you need to do if you want to get a job? And this is really for here in the United States. How do you prepare a resume in the United States? And then how do you prepare to talk about your resume when you get a job interview? So let's get started. The first thing is that a resume in the United States, it might be a little different from other countries. Here in the United States, a resume is normally one page or like a maximum of 2 pages long. Most resumes that I see are around 1 page, yeah. I mean, if you've got a lot of history, a lot of work history, a lot of information, you might add a second page in there. Let's look at the format of a resume. A very simple or a standard resume might look something like this. Now, of course, there are differences. There are different types of resumes, but this is a very standard format for a resume. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. At the top, you'll see you've got the personal information. The personal information should include your name, your phone number, your email address. If you're going for a job that's connected to the internet or websites or technology, if you have any social media or websites that you run, you could also put that information here in personal information as well. You might also want to put in your location, not necessarily your address, just where you are in the world. Like if you're in London, England, then you can put London, England. And if you have a specific job title, if let's say you're a mechanic and the job you're applying for is a mechanic, you can also put the title of your career or your job title. The next part, and this can change, but oftentimes people will put here their header or their personal statement. So this is just a short paragraph, a sentence or two about yourself. And this is really important if you have a very specific set of skills or abilities that are really, really necessary for the job you're applying for. The next part is going to be your work experience. So for each job, you're normally going to have the job title, the name of the job you did, the name of the company that you worked for, and how long you worked there for. The next part will be your responsibilities and your achievements. So normally this is in bullet points. So each individual bullet point will say something about the specific experience that you had and some achievement or something that was successful that you did in the job. The next part is your education. Unless you're going for a job that's connected to education, you normally only put your highest level of education. So if you did something at university, you would put your university education and also any relevant information that's connected to the job. So if you did a course in advanced computer programming and you're applying for a computer programming job, of course, you want to put in the specific courses that are relevant to the job you're applying for. In your resume so far, you have your personal information, maybe you have a header with some sort of a career summary, you've put in your work experience, you have your education. Another thing that's very common to add to a resume here in the United States is what we call your hard skills and your soft skills. Now, hard skills are the abilities or the skills that you've learned that can help you with your job. An example of a hard skill would be using Microsoft or having any understanding of how to manage a business or how to market a business. Soft skills, on the other hand, are more the interpersonal skills, the emotional skills that you have. For example, being able to work well with other colleagues or co-workers, being able to show empathy or to have certain leadership traits. Okay, so here are a few tips. Firstly, don't create a generic resume. By generic, I mean one resume that you send to every job you apply for. It really needs to be specific. So if you have a template for your resume, make sure that you make changes to it for the specific job that you're applying for. Be prepared to discuss the gaps in your resume. It's absolutely normal to have gaps in your resume. If you have taken a few years off, if you have kids, there are lots and lots of reasons why you might have a few years where you're not in a job or you're not in your career. So it's just important that you're prepared to explain why. Be prepared to talk about your work experience. Now, there are two ways that you can handle this. If you have a lot of work experience for a long time, you probably want to start with your earlier career and then gradually lead up to your current position or your most recent job. And explain your achievements, your responsibilities through the years, starting with the earliest and going to the most recent. If you don't have much experience, or you just haven't had a lot of job experience, or you haven't had a lot of jobs, then probably the best way to handle that is to speak about your most recent position in some detail. Go into detail about the jobs you have had, the most recent jobs you've had, and the sort of responsibilities and the achievements that you had in that job. Only speak about the responsibilities and achievements that are connected to the job you're applying for. Of course, if you've had a job, you've probably had lots of responsibilities, and I'm sure you've got lots of achievements and lots of things that you can talk about. But you want to keep to the point, and you want to speak specifically about things that are connected to the job. So now we're going to listen to a short conversation. Now, this is just focusing in on the part of the job interview where they ask you, can you walk me through your resume? And this is sort of common, especially if maybe the person interviewing you didn't read the resume. If you're one of a number of people coming in to interview for the job, they might not have looked at everything. So they want you to describe your work history and your experience and why you have the experience from your resume to be the best person for the job. We're going to listen to a conversation with Mary. Now, if you watched my previous video, and again, I'll put the link at the top here about job interviews, Mary interviewed for a job at an English language school. So now she's applying for a different job. Hi Mary, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in and interviewing with us today. To get started, we'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. So could you walk us through your resume, please?
Sure. So in 2005, I graduated from the University of Florida with a degree in education. I got a job at an English language school where I taught kids ages 5 to 12 English as a second language. Within 6 months, I was promoted to lead instructor and started training other teachers. And then after 5 years, I moved back to the US and got a job teaching 4th grade math and science. Along with being a classroom teacher, I was also the team lead for our grade level. And then last year, I had the highest math scores in our county and was very excited to see my students do so well. Now in my current position, I'm a math coach. I prepare training for all the math teachers in the county, and I recently was asked to be a speaker at a mathematics education conference.
Okay, well, thank you, Mary. I've just looking through your resume, I noticed you've got a gap here in your employment history. Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I had my first child and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom and not work during that time.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now I know what I gotta change. And so I'm gonna take my resume away and start working on it now that I know exactly what I want to do to change it, to make it better. Hopefully you'll go away and do the same. Please remember, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And if you like these kinds of videos, please click to subscribe. I create new videos every week, and I already have lots of other videos that you can go and have a look at right now. Go to my channel, Master Everyday English. There are lots of different conversation videos that you can watch there. Everyday conversations with lots of English vocabulary and expressions that are really useful for those conversations that you might have at the doctor, at the dentist, at a hotel, for a job interview, and I'm creating new content every week.